Yo, it's your boy Kevin Foster coming to you from my kitchen in Long Beach, Long Beach, California. That is. It's hot as hell today, but I'm responding to my friend, my longtime friend and actress, Jasmine Lewis, who has been killing it on her Instagram with all her cooking shows, or her little cooking vignettes. So I told her the next time I cooked that I'd make sure I filmed it so we could post it as well. So today, in honor of Miss Lewis Kelly, should I say, I'm going to be cooking lamb chops with garlic mashed potatoes and some braised asparagus. Okay, so join me. I'll show you step by step. If you're a measurer and you need recipes, don't watch me because I don't measure a damn thing. I just throw it in there, stick my toe in, turn it around, and see what we come up with. Okay, so let's see how it works out. In case you're wondering what all these ingredients are, let me explain. I marinate my lamb chops in wine and a little bit of citrus because the citrus has acidity and so does the wine. It actually helps tenderize the meat, but it also adds a nice flavor. So right here I have the rack of lamb, and it's been marinating overnight in a red wine, a rich red wine, and some citrus, a little orange, fresh orange squeeze in there as well. The wine that I use is a Cabernet Sauvignon because it's a robust red, but it also has kind of a spicy note to it, and it works really good with a hearty meat like lamb. But that also helps tenderize it very well. I'll be using the garlic and the olive oil to braise the asparagus. I'm going to be chopping the green onions and sauteing them along with the mushrooms, and believe it or not, that's going to go in the garlic mashed potatoes. I have a couple of red potatoes here just to show you, but I have some boiling in the back because it takes forever for those things to get the texture that I want. But I like a rough mash. I don't like to whip them with a beater. I like to use a good old-fashioned potato masher, and I leave the skin on, and it gives it kind of a heartier texture. There will be some butter, chives, green onions, and mushrooms, sauteed mushrooms in the garlic mashed potatoes. Let's see, what else? That's basically it. I usually try to make a meal that's got a protein, a starch, and a green vegetable, and that's what we have here today. It's kind of hot, so we're not going to be eating heavy, but that's what we got planned for this evening. This is a staple in any black person's home, Lowry seasoned salt. The other one that I use a lot is Tony Cheshire. It's a Creole seasoning. I'm married to a Creole, so it kind of comes with the territory now. But it's a seasoned salt as well. It's just a little spicier. I'll be braising the asparagus in the extra virgin olive oil. I usually use Himalayan sea salt and some fresh ground pepper as a basic seasoning on most things, but I'm going to rub some Creole seasoning and a little bit of steak rub onto the rack of lamb. All right, let's see how it goes. I grab a potato out of the boil and make sure that the texture is right. So I usually splice one if I can tell it's hot. Yeah, see, that's nice and tender now. It's fully cooked through. That's going to be something that I can mash up without getting carpal tunnel syndrome. But that's the key. The potato has to be fully cooked so it's nice and tender and easy to mash. The potatoes are ready. I'm just going to throw in a few tablespoons of butter. And like I said, I like to leave the skin on the potato, so it's going to have a rougher texture than creamed or whipped mashed potatoes, but I will be mashing them thoroughly, and I'm going to season to taste. Sometimes I use sour cream and chives so it tastes like a baked potato, but today is going to be primarily kind of a garlic with a little Creole spice to it, so it's going to have a little heat but not a lot. I don't like to over salt these because you never know how people's tastes are, but I'm going to add a little half and half to this in a little bit, and I'm going to season to taste with fresh ground pepper and Creole seasoning. I've added about a tablespoon of minced garlic. I've added some Lowry seasoning salt, a little bit of Tony Cheshire's Creole seasoning. I always finish it with a ground pepper. I like, it gives it kind of a smoky heat, but with a mild heat. I don't like to make it too spicy. But you get the idea. So I'll be working these potatoes for a little while. It's got the cream already in there. And again, I leave the skin on because it does give it a heartier texture. But I will mash this enough where it'll still be really smooth, with a little bit of chunkiness to it and a little bit of edge with the peel still on. Now that the green onions have been washed and beheaded, you just give them a fine chop. And I try to use a lot of the onion, so I go almost to the end of the chives there. I like the color that it adds, but it also reminds me of the baked potatoes that I used to get even when I was a kid. My dad used to love a loaded baked potato, so he'd have sour cream, butter, pepper, chives, and bacon, and sometimes even cheddar cheese on top. And I do make a mashed potato that's kind of like that, but today, because I want the lamb to be kind of the star of the dish, I won't be going crazy with the potatoes. We're just going with a simple garlic mash. It's got chives and some sauteed mushrooms in it. So, good cutlery, by the way, is extremely important, especially when you're cooking the red meats, because even if your meat is tender, you do really want to be able to chop it without much effort, or to make cuts into it without much effort. You'll see when we start to deal with the lamb chops without good cutlery, man, it makes everything longer and more laborious. As you can see, I have about a tablespoon of butter. That's going to be sauteing the mushrooms and the onions. I always pour a little bit of red wine in there as well. And then I just pile the mushrooms in there. Make sure they get evenly coated. Toss them around quite a bit. They cook down quick. Also, for people being concerned with cooking with alcohol, the actual alcohol cooks out at like 145 degrees, so it doesn't take a lot to lose the alcohol effect when you're cooking with alcohol. But it does add a distinct flavor to a lot of the foods. We're going to saute these for a little bit, and then I'm going to toss the green onions in on top of those. The only thing I add to it besides the butter and the wine is a little bit of ground pepper. And that's going to complement the texture of the potatoes. Mushrooms are about where the texture I want them. Mushrooms have a lot of fluid in them, so they create their own kind of broth, especially with the wine and the butter already in there. I usually throw in a little more butter. Get my mushrooms off to the side. You can see the reduction there. And then I bring my green onions and chives. And I don't want them to get too soggy. I want them to have a little bit of bite and a little crispness to them. So that's why I put them in last. And they're all going to go in together into the garlic mashed potatoes. This is on a medium heat. You don't want to cook them too fast because you'll start to get char on the mushrooms, and you'll actually kind of burn the onions a little bit. So yeah, you just kind of let this cook over medium heat and just turn it, just toss it around until it's good and coated. Every now and then I'll pull out either a mushroom or an onion to see if it has the texture I want. That's the thing about this. There's no set way to do it. You can do it to your taste. I like my vegetables to have a little bit of, I don't like them to be soggy. I like them to have a little bit of a little crispness to them. All right, the mushrooms and the green onions are ready. I usually drain a little bit of the moisture out of them. Not a lot, because I want some of that flavor to go in with the potatoes. But it does, it adds a little bite and texture, and it also adds a tremendous flavor to the garlic mash. Okay, so the potatoes are basically done. Now it's on to the lamb. All right. Now we have our rack of lamb that's been marinating in Cabernet Sauvignon and fresh orange juice, fresh squeezed oranges, and it is soaked in really nicely. Literally 24 hours is a minimum for me when I'm marinating in wine, and it does. It really tenderizes the meat. The flavor really soaks in, and it's a cooking agent as well. All I'm going to do is I'll season it with a little Lowry's, not a ton. The Creole seasoning, and then I use a little bit of Montreal steak rub. It's just kind of adds a little coating to the meat when it broils. And then, like most meats, I rub them in. They get mixed reviews on this. I hear some people say rub the seasoning in, some say don't. This is the way my mama taught me to do it, so this is the way I do it. I massage the seasonings in. Also, for some reason I feel connected to the food when I do this as well. I'll flip it over. I'll repeat. The Lowry's as the base. The Creole seasoning on top of that. And then I'll finish it with a little steak rub. And the process repeats. My friends will tell you that know me that actually I'm good at this with shoulders as well. I studied massage therapy when I was in college, and it was a nice little side hustle while I was in school, and now I'm applying it to lamb chops. Go figure. So that's good and coated, and now that is ready for the broiler. Alright, I take my rack of lamb and I put it in. I have these, get these little disposable, basically, roasting pans from the market. They're cheap. If they get all burned up or something afterwards, I don't care. But I also use a little bit of the marinade, and I pour that over the top and let that soak in. And I leave a little bit in the pan as well, and it kind of bastes the meat a little bit. That's going to char like crazy inside that pot. Inside that pan. So don't worry about it. The pans cost like $3. I get them at the market all the time. But that's it. It's ready for the broiler. So the broiler's been preheating. And we just stick it in, and away we go. Okay, now it's time for the asparagus. The potatoes are done. The lamb is in the broiler. The key to the lamb, though, is I'm going to turn that every 5 minutes or so, because that way it cooks more evenly. I like the lamb chops to be like medium to almost medium rare, but I live in a predominantly black family and they like theirs well done or medium well. So I turn them every 5 minutes so that they cook evenly. And then the ones on the end will be medium to medium well, and the ones in the middle will be more medium. And I'll slice them. You'll see that in a bit. But for the asparagus, this is the same pan we use for the mushrooms and the green onions. Put a little olive oil in there. I also add a small little pat of butter. Be careful if you're working with olive oil or any of the oils that your hands aren't wet, because if you drop little droplets of water in there, it's going to sound like the 4th of July in microcosm. So be aware. They will pop and pop and pop the more water is in there. You're probably looking at my hands going, boy, that brother been washing his hands in this coronavirus and ain't even ashy. But my hands have been hydrated. That's the key, is you want to not have water going in your skillet while you have oil in there. And then I just toss these around and let them get coated. And it's going to be on a low heat because I usually use baby asparagus, and these are bigger. So you want them to get a little tender. So you want to have enough room in there so they can all get coated evenly and just toss them around. And that's basically it. Okay, so the asparagus is done. I like to put a little bit of char on some of them, not a lot. And then we'll set them aside and let them rest. And the lamb is going to be ready in just a bit. Okay, the lamb has been in now for about 10 minutes. I flipped it already twice. And you can see it's starting to take its color. It's actually going to get quite a bit darker. And then I'm going to pull them out and slice them so they'll be like little tomahawk steaks, little mini tomahawk steaks. And I'm going to let some of them cook a little more further, sliced once they come out of the broiler. All right, so here's the finished product. We have the braised asparagus in butter, virgin olive oil, and a little bit of garlic salt. We have the rough mashed potatoes, skin on, red potatoes with green onions, chives, and sauteed mushrooms. And we have the marinated lamb chops. So lamb chops were marinated in Cabernet Sauvignon and some citrus, a little orange, a little fresh squeezed orange. So there you have it. Jasmine, I'm not ever going to cook again on a 90-degree day. So unless you want me to see a video with In-N-Out burgers on some paper plates, you better never challenge me again, damn it. But here we go. Lamb chops, garlic mashed, and braised asparagus for Jasmine Lewis. Thank you for the challenge. I hope you don't do it again.